Welcome to another episode of the Alley Report, part of the Service Department. Today we're talking with Clay McLeod Chapman, author of Ghost Eaters, What Kind of Mother, the upcoming Wake Up and Open Your Eyes, just announced Acquired Taste, and he also had a story in Found, which is one of my favorite recent anthologies. So thanks for coming
Oh,
on here.
really?
Yeah, I loved
Have
it.
you read the second anthology yet?
I haven't yet. I haven't read it yet.
Me,
But
me
I'm
neither. I'm dying. I gotta get a copy.
yeah, I have it. That's my when I gave my wife a list of books I would like for Christmas. Like choose from this list, and that's absolutely on there.
Yeah. So do you know if it's actually in the house at this point, or like is it
I'm
like
not sure.
hidden? Yeah.
Oh, something kind of sort of book shaped came in, and it was like I was like, oh, what's that? She's like, don't worry about it. So maybe that's it.
Oh my God. It's in the house.
It's in the
Found is
house,
in the house.
and I want to read it so bad.
I
Um,
mean, would you know? I mean, like, do you play by the
oh yeah, I definitely play by the rules. Um, I won't open. I don't open early, even if I know.
rules?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
gotta read it.
oh yeah. Sorry. Like my internet just is like your internet connection's unstable. It's like, come on,
Um,
now.
That's all right. We'll get the bits and spurts, the hips and the hops.
Yeah. We'll make it work. We'll make it work. Well, yeah, with wake up and open your eyes. I feel like that's like it's gonna apply so much to people's lives. You have the going home part of the horror story. That's a classic, but also the losing people to conspiracy theories, losing people to right wing stuff, like that disconnect and kind of finding out like a horrific reveal of the people you know.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I mean, it's kind of interesting that you bring up Found as your favorite anthology. In all honesty, the kind of point of origin for Wake Up and Open Your Eyes was my contribution to the Found anthology, where I mean, I can't even remember. I mean, it had to be like maybe 10 pages. And what happens in the story itself was called The Spew of the News. And it's a goofy but kind of gross and kind of intense story. I just use that story as the kind of launching off point for the novel Wake Up and Open Your Eyes. So you can almost see the first 10 pages of the book as being the short story, and then it just kind of ramps up from there.
I love when that happens when you because I've done it before where you write a short story and it's like, oh, I mean that's good, but there's more I could do with this. Like it almost feels like you wrote a first chapter, not an entire story in a way.
Totally, totally. Yeah, I mean, like I mean, sometimes these stories they're just not done, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have that like this is it's all well and good for an anthology, and it tells its own kind of encapsulated story. But there's always like what happens on the next page or the next page, and you just want to keep going.
Yeah, that was honestly that was when I read Stay on the Line. That was one
Yeah,
where it got to the end and I was like, I want more. But then you're torn on the when stories leave you wanting more. It's like, do you need to leave it like that, or do you need to like push more for it? It's like it's hard to choose when to do that with stories sometimes.
man, you read Stay on the Line. That makes me happy. Thank you. Um, yeah, that one's a funny one because like it is a self-contained story. And I remember getting a little bit of feedback from some folks, some readers who are like, "Oh, there's more to be told here," and I totally get that, and I agree. But I feel like the kind of like the bite-sized quality to that
Yeah,
one. Um, I mean, it is a pretty kind of chunky short story, um, but yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like there's always that strange balance of like the premise. You don't want the premise to overstay its welcome, you know?
yeah,
And when you have a haunted, telephone booth or whatever you want to call it, like how far can you take that before it starts to kind of, I don't know, expose itself?
that's true. Because I've seen that a lot in like especially like creepypasta stories where people have such a great concept and it works so well for like 10 or 15 pages or sometimes 20 or 30 pages, but then they're like, this is popular, I'm going to make a book out of it, and it you
Yeah.
push it too far, it loses some of that luster, you explain too much, like, and that's why I think like Stay Online works so much is you don't really get a lot of answers, but not in a way that disappoints you. Like
Yeah.
you're never going to get these answers. Like you can't get these answers.
Much like in life, there
Yeah,
are
exactly.
right? Totally.
Like every year is this the year we find out Bigfoot's real, but I'm always left waiting for answers.
Are you holding your breath? Like are
I'm holding.
you like at the point
That's just one
just
of those
like
things. Like
I know this is the year. 2025 is the year of Bigfoot.
yeah, I'm always hoping. I'm always hoping this is a year someone finally has like the high definition smartphones we carry with us everywhere, and we finally get the picture. Maybe one day.
Oh man. I mean, crazier things have happened, right?
That's true. Yeah,
One day, one day.
one day. Yeah, I'm holding out. Um, but also I just had to mention because you've done a lot of work on Venom verse, and you've written, and Venom's just one of my favorite comic book characters. Like I have like going way back.
Oh my God.
So
That's amazing. You just have those like on deck, like they're on your desk right now.
I got it for I got him for the stream, but I had him like in a cabinet, and then I was like, oh, I got to talk about Venom with Clay. I was like, oh, I got to get out. I got to show him. I got to get some of my issues out.
Let's see if I can tell me if I lose you on my internet connection, but this is here's my Venom stuff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's more, Venom, I did some Venom, but like most of it's been all the other symbiotes, like the Life
Yeah,
Foundation symbiotes or Scream, um, Carnage. But it was always kind of rare to play with like actual Venom.
yeah. Which I'd
Um,
love giving like the Life Foundation ones because I remember like reading them in the '90s when I was little, when I was younger, but like there wasn't a lot to them. Like they kind of showed up, they didn't really have any personality or do much, and they usually went away in an issue.
yeah, and they didn't even have a name. Like for
Yeah,
like years, they were just
yeah.
not called anything.
It was like there was the girl one with the long hair, the other girl one was gray. Like that was really it. It was like one was green. They didn't have names.
Yeah. I Scream was I think like I don't know if there was like the first girl or the second girl, but there was the girl with the like the female symbiote
Yeah,
with the hair. She Scream when like Scream became kind of a persona. Uh I loved her. Like I've written the most for Scream out of all of the symbiotes that I've worked on. And I love her. I love her. She's the
yeah,
best.
yeah. And she's one of those examples where it's like if you have just a design, like a great design, like and
Yeah.
you hooked up with the right writer who's like, I want to do something with this. Like it's such a great, like you said, like nothing done for years, but now like
Oh my God, they're like this is like symbiote time. Like we're living in a like a flush, era of symbiotes. And it's good. And I but I do think that like a symbiote is only as good as its host.
yeah.
So, you need to have a good, whoever the body is, like whoever's underneath that, like that's the weird.
Okay, so we had slight technical difficulties. We've each like relocated our computers between the two of us. We should be good. But
Yeah.
but yeah, before it froze on my end, it was about how with the symbiote story, like the host is just as important as the character
Yeah.
as the symbiote.
Totally. I mean, like I do think that, it's always two characters. You're writing, there's of course here's what I think. I think symbiote stories are always relationship stories. Whether they're positive relationships, good relationships, bad relationships, like it's ultimately how two people have to kind of coexist and thrive together in order to survive or, whatever symbiote it is, whether it's Carnage or Venom, whether they're doing good or bad, it's always about how do we work together, working
Yeah,
together with your parasites.
Yeah. Um, that I love that with the the Tom Hardy movies. Some people don't like it as much, but I kind of enjoyed they leaned into the sillier relationship side. I almost wanted more of that. I almost felt
Yeah.
like plots got in the way of like what I wanted out of that movie.
I mean, yeah, I feel like the I've seen all the Venom movies, so they got my money. But I don't know. I mean it's I'm trying to like be I'm being sheepish about voicing my opinion on what I think of the Tom Hardy Venom movies. I mean they're just a total goof, right?
Yeah,
Um I think Tom Hardy just is like I want to have fun. I love this character. Let's just have a good old time.
yeah, and I think the one thing I'll always level is we're gonna have a movie with Carnage in it. Should we call it Maximum Carnage, like the well-known series from the '90s? No, we'll call it Let There Be Carnage.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's I think I think Sony, the studio, faces a certain kind of challenge where it's like they can't they can't necessarily name all the characters, or there's not like a direct one-to-one correlative between those characters that exist in the comics and then whatever characters they have in the movies. Like that was clearly Carnage, and that was definitely, I mean, they say it's Cletus Cassidy,
But
so
it's not really
yeah,
it's kind of a
yeah,
it's like you said, it's kind of a let's have fun, sillier version of
yeah,
him. Like it's not the one that killed his grandma with a hammer. It's not that Carnage.
yeah. Did you see the most recent one?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm gonna be cheeky, forgive me. This is my total claim to fame at this point. But the family, like the kind of hippy dippy family that's
Yeah.
in the van and kind of traveling. Those apparently, allegedly, those characters were based upon characters that I created with artist Brian Level. We did
Oh.
this weird comic, this like one-off issue in what was it called? Separation Anxiety. And it was like a nuclear family, a family of four, mom and dad, older sister, younger brother, and a dog. And like the end of the issue is basically them going on a road trip. Like the family packs up into the car and they're like off and running. And for some reason, like they said, like whoever the creators of that movie were like, that's the family. We're gonna use them. And and we had no idea. Like it wasn't
Oh.
until the week of the release week of the film that our editor at Marvel calls up and is like, "Did you know that those characters are in the movie?" And I was just like, "What?" Like it just like it totally blew. So I caught a matinee of it, and sure enough, it's like, "Oh my God, that's kind of them." So and we get a little thank you credit at the very, 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 like if you make it through
That's
all the credits, like all 20 minutes of scrolling, like there's like just at the very, very end. So I was like, wow, made it into a Venom movie.
there you go. You just like screenshot that and like just draw a little yellow circle.
I mean, totally. I was like the only person in the movie theater, and I was like, I actually pulled out my camera, which is not allowed, but like I was like kind of like hiding it, and I was like in my seat with my camera up, just like waiting to see the name like scroll up, and it was there, and I was like, and I snapped off a little picture of it.
I mean, you had to. You had to.
I mean, right? Like, it's not like they adapted a comic that I wrote for the big screen, but it's the closest I've ever had to like a comic thing getting kind of getting translated to movies. And
Yeah.
I was just totally like, totally enamored. It was
Yeah. I
totally
mean, well, it's like someone read your one off and that was enough. They're like, this has got to be in it. Like out of all the Venom stories, and I mean, there's like 35 years of them so far. Like,
I mean, God, this is all conjecture. Like nobody like I have no honest idea how this works, but like with whatever creative brain trust there is behind the Venom movies or any big property movie for that matter, like I'm sure there's like a period where they're just doing kind of recon and they're just like scoring through all of the old comics, like just reading through everything, and like maybe they're making a laundry list of like all the different characters where they're like, oh, maybe this guy will be like, maybe we could use this character or we could use this character. And then they just have spreadsheets of, intel from all the comics. And then the writers of the thing have to be like, how do we, like, what do we really
Yeah.
want? And how does that help tell our story? And pay some lip service to the actual fans and readers of the comics themselves.
Yeah, that makes sense because every now and then you get like the deep cut references like that. Like when you watch a comic book movie, it'll be like, we're gonna adopt this, popular storyline everybody knows, and then there'll be like a reference or a character or usually a one-off line. And it's like, hey, like that's
Yeah.
didn't expect that.
For the fans. That one's for the fans.
There we go. Um, well, yeah, you just had today it was Acquired Taste was announced. Like, I didn't know if you want to mention that. I talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's funny. It actually got announced. It got announced like way back in May, and it doesn't come out till September 2025. So it's a ways off. But I the metadata, I guess what it is, the stuff that gets kind of fed into the internet and on websites, like that started feeding out today
Huh.
or recently. And I just noticed it. Like, you know, these things kind of like they kind of work in a vacuum on the web, and then like you have to kind of, no one will say like, hey, your stuff is out there. And, like you
Yeah.
have to, like, I did I did a Google search, very vainly. I was like, I wonder what, like, because what it is, like a friend announced her book today, and I was like, huh, like I wonder if there's anything for Acquired Taste yet, and sure enough, there it was. But yeah, it's like a collection of short stories, with Spew of the News from Found Anthology. So and Stay on the Line will be in there.
Oh, nice, nice.
Oh yeah.
With the
So
illustrations.
no illustrations, sadly. Uh, that's why you got to get the shortwave radio version of it.
Yeah,
Like
exactly. That definitely adds to the mood of it. Like those are.
totally. I mean, God, working with Trevor Henderson is like the best. I think that's like bucket list item right there. Like
Oh yeah,
everybody wants either a Trevor Henderson cover or like illustration. Like he just really kind of elevates the material.
yeah. I have a friend of mine who has a collection coming out next fall. It's called Peel Back the Skin, and it has a Trevor Henderson cover, and it's just like just this gnarly body horror. Like it's just amazing.
Wait, whose book is that?
Um, it's author named Justin Montgomery.
Okay.
And he's been working on this collection for a while, and like he's been sending me like stories of it as he's updating them, changing them, and he like worked with Trevor to have a cover made for it, and it looks it's great. So like you can find it out there.
Has the cover is out there? Like
Yeah, the
has it?
cover's out there. Yeah, and it's yeah. Peel Back
Um,
the Skin by Justin Montgomery, and it's so good. Like as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, that's awesome.
I mean, that is a gnarly title. Is it? I mean, are we talking like body horror? Are we
Yeah,
talking
like
kind of? Yeah.
he's got all it's what I love about any kind of short story collection where it's all these different facets of it, but there's a body horror story in there. It's kind of like a body cosmic horror where it's like the setup is Poseidon rose from the sea, got in a fight with the Navy, was killed, and has poisoned the earth. And but then it's like the
Wow.
small contained story of a small family in the face of like Poseidon's corpse has poisoned the world. And I love it so much. Like and I've read every version of it as he's adapted it. And I'm just like, I love this story so much.
Well, I mean, that's amazing because that's kind of like, speaking to your point earlier about, a short story it's a very finite and very kind of compressed like the vessel is just so small.
Yeah.
But that story sounds beyond like
Yeah.
how can you fit that in a short story? How is that not a novel?
And it's weird because it's like a background. It's like background radiation to the story, and it works. Like I don't know, I think it could be a novel, but as a short story, just it doesn't feel like you've got like a small piece of something that's incomplete. That's why to me that's like the standout in the collection. I love that. I've read every version of it. Every time he's revised it, I'm like, send it. I want to see what's happened with it.
That's amazing.
Um, and yeah, whenever you're putting together a collection, like what goes into when you're structuring it? Do you structure it based on order that they were published or things like that, or do you try to almost like an album? You're gonna okay, this is a good opener, this is a good
Oh,
closer.
total album. Like total
Yes,
album.
yeah,
Gotta be. Like, I mean, chronologically would be interesting, but like then I think there would be it would kind of expose the kind of like this is what mood I was in when these stories
yeah,
came out,
yeah.
you know, where if I mean like if you can kind of figure out the kind of placement in such a way that it has these the kind of peaks and valleys, um yeah, like you have to hit the ground running, you have to have that radio hit up front, you know, you have to have a great closer, you know.
Yeah.
It's amazing how like your ballad is usually like the second story or like somewhere kind of like a few stories in.
Mhm.
Um, you just gotta find the groove and run with it. And that yeah,
Yeah.
I love trying to determine like I'm of a certain generation, forgive me, of mix tape making.
I
Um,
same.
yeah, yeah. I loved it. Like I loved the idea of like you piecing together, you know, not just like, oh, now this song, now this song, now this song, but like you could actually contour the listening experience with a mixtape uh in a way that like for me it was like always like, okay, what is the best song to go right after this song? And like you're just
Yeah,
like I would obsess over it.
yeah.
And
Like making
like
like you can almost it almost becomes preferable to the album track listing. So especially when you do like almost a greatest hits thing, where it's like, no, this forgotten B side, this C sides, this would should be up front. And
yeah. Yeah, best of albums are so weird because it I mean it feels rare that flow is taken into account. Like it's,
yeah,
you know, and
that,
like
that's an example of like order of released, order of published. Like you see how the band changes and things like that. But yeah, it's not based on listening experience the way you would a normal album, the way you'd compose a normal album.
totally, totally. Um yeah, that's the one of the kind of like pure joys of a short story collection, like putting one together. Like you have to kind of like tap into your inner mixtape maker.
Yeah, that's why I always tell people. I feel like short story collections don't get the acclaim they should. But usually, when if there's an author I like and I recommend, I'm always like, well, get the short story collection. Like, you want to get to
Yeah.
know this author, get the short story collection.
Oh
Like
my God. Yeah, like recently, you know, just this weekend, I finished Laird Barron's new collection, his most
oh
recent collection. What is it? Not a speck of light? Not a speck of light.
yeah,
Um, and it was great. But I recently, I still have not finished. Like, there's this author, Brian Evanson,
mhm,
um, in his most recent collection, I just finished right before Laird Barron's collection, his most recent book, which is called Good Night, Sleep Tight. And that book messed with my mind. I loved it. I like just the one-two punch of those two, you know, cosmic weird horror authors. Like
yeah,
it really like, oh, it just does something to your kind of existential anxiety.
yeah. It
To
gets under your
mine.
skin. Like both of them. Anytime I've read Larry Barron, I've only read one Brian Evanson, but like in both, it just get under your skin. And like it was thing was like with Larry Barron was like I got to a point where I didn't think things could scare me anymore. I didn't think I could be creeped out anymore. And I'd
Yeah.
read uh the imago sequence.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, no, I could be really creeped out. Like
Yeah. Oh, the
it's
Imago
still
sequence.
there.
I mean that's like the kind of that's the standard. Like that is like the Imago sequence is like the collection that I think we're all kind of like the bar is
Yeah,
that book. Like that is it. So and we're all kind of like fighting hard to like live up to making something that kind of which is impossible. It's
yeah,
impossible to do that.
yeah. No, absolutely. It's like it's a thing. It was like, oh, I could do more. I could be doing more with what I'm doing.
You should totally check out Brian Evanson's collections, though. Like,
Okay.
you said you read only one.
Yeah, so far, like I read it. I was like, oh, I got to read more. I just haven't. It's my to be read list is staggering. There's so much good
Uh,
out there.
no judgment, no judgment. Like we all have towering, pillars of TBRs. But I love that book. Like his most recent one, Good Night, Sleep Tight. It airs, I think, more on the like sci-fi side of things. And I really appreciate sci-fi. Like I like
Yeah.
sci-fi, but like like these stories like they just work so well. Like I love that book. Gotta read it. Do
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
Please.
I'll, be, I'll add it to my list.
Move it up the file. Move it up to the top.
Done. Done. Consider it done. Um. Well. Well. Yeah. Well. Thank you again for coming on here. Like this has been awesome.
Thanks for
And
having me.
yeah, anyone you're watching and or listening, check out, Wake Up and Open Your Eyes comes out next month, right?
Oh my God. January 7th.
Okay. Yeah. That's coming up.
Oh my God, it's just around the corner.
And yeah, I love Stay on the Line. Ghost Eaters I haven't read yet, but that's the one that whenever I see a list of people like, oh, what do I need to read in indie horror? What's a horror I need to read? Ghost Eaters always pops up on the list.
Cool. I'll take it. I'll run
Yeah,
with
there you
it.
go. Yeah, no, no.
Done. As long as
Well,
it's holding up the TBR pile. It could be one of the foundational, like, you have to get through all these books, but if it's there, if it's holding up the others, that's
makes the cut. Yeah,
I just want to be the base. Put me on the base.
yeah, yeah. What more could you want?
Done.
Done.